Good morning, Chair Bolandroff, members Garrett and Holmes, staff and guests. The lobbies are open and the recording has begun.
Thank you, Gretchen. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board meeting for Wednesday, March 12th. I'll now convene the meeting. We will start with approval of minute meetings. So I would like to see if I could get a motion to approve the January 21st, 28th, 29th, and 2025 caucus minute meetings and the January 29, 2025 board minute meeting. Do I have a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Thank you. That's approved. And then I'm also looking for a motion to approve the minutes for the February 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th, 2025 caucus minutes, February 26th, 2025 board minute meetings, and February 26th, 2025 EMT minutes. Motion.
I move we approve the February caucus board and EMT meeting minutes.
I second.
All right, thank you. Those are approved. Okay, we'll now move into the third agenda item, which is board efficiencies. So before I get started, I'd like to thank the board for, I need to turn on my mic. I'd like to thank the board for our good discussion that we had yesterday in the caucus meeting regarding the proposed changes to the board meeting, to caucus, and to the executive management team. As I mentioned yesterday, these suggested changes are made with my commitment to ensure that we operate with efficiency, transparency, and a strong commitment to community engagement and leadership. I'll briefly summarize my proposal before asking for a motion granting me as the chair the authority to govern the proceedings and implement the proposed changes. So to summarize, I propose that we transition from bi-weekly to monthly board meetings to better align with the timing of key updates and to provide staffing flexibility and efficiency. The date of implementation will be determined based on current rule requests and timelines that we need to meet. The schedule will be posted in the board information section of the LCB public website. I also propose that we transition from oral public comment to written comment for the general comments section of the board meeting. I do want to be clear that we are not eliminating public comment. We are transitioning from oral to written. Date of implementation to coincide with the March 26, 2025 board meeting. The board will determine the process for posting and sharing written public comment. I propose that we decouple the public hearing process from the rules petitions between the CR 102 and the CR 103 from the board meetings. The date of implementation to be determined based on current rule requests and timelines in process. We will also post this in the rulemaking overview of the LCB website. Caucus-specific proposed changes. I propose the board transition from weekly to bi-weekly caucus meetings. Date of implementation to be determined based on current rule requests and timelines in process. The schedule will be posted in the board information section of the LCB public website. And then finally, executive management team proposals. I propose that we transition to having a single board member attend executive management team on a rotating basis. The board member who attends will provide a summary at the next caucus, date of implementation to coincide with the March 19th, 2025 executive management team meeting. So with that, I'm open for any questions or comments from the board before I seek a motion. Any questions or comments?
No questions. I think we discussed it thoroughly yesterday for me.
Thank you. Board Member Holmes?
No questions or comments.
Okay, so with that, do I have a motion granting me as the board chair the authority to govern the proceedings and implement the proposed changes?
I move that we grant you the authority to implement the proposed changes.
Second.
All right, thank you. So that is approved. Thank you for that, and I appreciate the conversation. I think we did have a good conversation about the rationale for that yesterday, so thank you. All right, so moving right along, we're going to move on to rulemaking timelines and turn it over to Justin Nordhorn, who's in the room with us today. Morning, Justin.
Good morning, Chair Waldroff, members Garrett and Holmes. So I will cover, I'll kind of keep it brief. We covered a little bit yesterday during caucus. Current currently we have 6 open rulemaking projects, one to begin in April. We also have a couple concepts that we're working on that may be coming forward, but we're also being mindful of bills that we're tracking. We're currently tracking 16 active legislative bills that could impact rule development or require rule development. The 2 that you're hearing today is the cannabis waste. The final CR 103 will be presented to you by Jeff. And then we'll also have a public hearing today on the cannabis sampling. And so if no comments are received or no further changes after today, we're planning on moving the supplemental CR 102 to the end of the month. We also have a few others on the agenda. So we have the second substitute House Bill 2151, transfer of lab accreditation from the LCB to the WSDA. That will be coming forward for a public hearing at the end of this month. And there's a little bit of confusion around that as we've been receiving some public comments directed towards this rule, but not within the scope of this rule. And so people are talking about different types of testing and how testing is being conducted in the labs. And this is simply just transferring accreditation from LCB to WSDA. So that is really the limited scope of this particular rulemaking. We also have acceptable forms of identification that we're working through. And then we also just started the stakeholder engagement this week, and we're having 2 sessions this week. One was on Monday, the other one is tomorrow around alcohol product placement. And so we're getting quite a bit of feedback from stakeholders and industry members on that. And the one that's to be launched is our seasonal hours of operation for alcohol licensees. This is a result of a petition that was accepted by the board. And we'd like to get that in place, of course, before the fall and winter, so those licensees can utilize that in a timely manner. We also have 4 pending petitions at this point. One of them is asking to include railroads in the interstate common carrier law, which is a statute and not a rule. So that would have to go through legislative change. That response is due at the end of April. So we'll be bringing something forward in the near future on that. We also have 2 from the Cannabis Alliance asking for concentrates to be sold in single 7-gram packages. There's an allowance under state statute to be able to sell up to 7 grams to a consumer, and they would like to be able to have all in one package. And then the other petition from the Cannabis Alliance has to do with removing the requirement of having individually wrapped like edibles within the childproof packaging that already exists. And then we have another one that is requesting to allow green cards as acceptable forms of ID. And as I mentioned, we already have an acceptable forms of identification rule in progress. And so we will be providing consideration on that within the scope of that particular project. So I'm happy to answer any questions around our active rules that we have going on right now.
You guys are very busy these days. I have no questions. Any questions from other board members?
No questions.
Nope. No questions.
Excellent.
Right,
Thank you so much.
Justin, appreciate it. Okay, with that, we'll move on to cannabis-related rulemaking, and we've got Jeff Hindall here to provide us an update. So Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, Chair Vollendroff and board members Garrett and Holmes. Today, the Director's Office is requesting approval of a CR 103 permanent rulemaking package to update WAC 314-55-097 with amendments that are needed to implement substitute Senate Bill 5376, which is the bill regarding the selling of cannabis plant waste material. These permanent changes with the CR 103 will allow licensed cannabis producers and licensed cannabis processors to sell cannabis plant waste to people who are not cannabis licensees. The permanent rule language allows for sales of cannabis plant waste material, such as cannabis plant roots that contain the THC concentration of 0.3% THC or less to a person who is not a cannabis licensee if certain conditions are met. The rule amendments we have made to WAC 314-55-097 define a term of what qualifies as sellable cannabis waste. and also the conditions that must be met when a sale is made. These conditions are that the sellable plant waste must have a THC concentration of 0.3% or less and not be designated as dangerous or hazardous waste. And it must also be solid waste, not a liquid. The producer, processor, licensee must notify the Washington State Department of Agriculture and the LCB before the sale takes place. And the cannabis producer or processor licensee must make these waste sales available to the public on an equal and non-discriminatory basis. On September 4th, 2024, the LCB held a virtual public stakeholder meeting regarding this bill, SSB 5376, and sales of cannabis waste. This meeting was recorded, and the meeting presentation and recording are available on the LCB website. The CR 102 proposed rulemaking was filed on January 15th, 2025, and we received four comments during the comment period, which concerned reporting a price for the sale of cannabis waste, the requirement in the proposed rule that states that the waste must remain in the state of Washington, and concerns about possible diversion of cannabis other than waste material. One member of the public spoke on the issue of reporting a price for cannabis waste, which is required by the bill, at the public meeting held on February 26, 2025. After the public hearing and the comment periods, there have been no changes made to the proposed rule amendments between proposal and this final CR 103 permanent rulemaking. So if the CR 103 is approved today at this meeting, and it will be filed with the Office of the Code Revisor, and the final rule would take effect on April 13th, 2025. Therefore, the Director's Office is hereby requesting approval of the CR 103 on the cannabis waste rulemaking. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions from board members about this one?
No questions.
Seeing none, looking for a motion to adopt CR 103 to implement Senate Bill 5376 regarding sale of cannabis waste.
I move that we adopt the rule as outlined by Mr. Kildall.
And I second.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we are now going to have a public hearing regarding the supplemental CR 102 for cannabis sampling. Just a reminder, this is a public hearing portion of the meeting. Everyone will have up to 3 minutes to speak. Actually, let me have you do your part, and then I'll do my first one.
All right, good morning again, Chair Vollendorf, members Garrett and Holmes, Justin Nordhorn, Director of Policy and External Affairs for the board. Today we are previewing a public hearing on cannabis sampling. And so this is related to WAC 314-55096. So there has been, what we intend to do is request approval of the final rules on March 26th if there is no further changes. So for a little bit of background, the rule making came as a result of a petition from the Washington Cannabis Business Association that the board accepted in August of 2022 to amend 314-55096. And the CR 101 was filed in March of 2023. We had stakeholder engagements in March and October of 2023. We also had the CR 102 was filed in August of 2024. And in between that, we also had some surveys that went out to licensees in July of 2023. So we held a public hearing on this topic in October of 2024, and we heard some significant concerns with the original CR 102. And so we did file a supplemental CR 102. And then that is bringing us to today's hearing. So the initial CR 102 made several changes, including the combined existing categories of vendor and education samples into one category, which we're calling and identifying it as trade samples. It requires the samples to be the smallest unit currently sold at retail, so that licensees no longer need to make entirely separate unit sizes for samples. That was a request by the industry on cost reduction for them. Identifying samples, limits being provided to retailers and to particular employees by referencing to calendar quarters, and also identifying traceability record keeping requirements. Also physical separation of samples from products being sold. So our staff can easily identify which are samples and which are for resale. And also it concluded, or also with sampling jar, modifying those sampling jar requirements. So following the public hearing in October of 2024, we had several conversations with licensees and stakeholders about further changes. And so we received several emails that were included in the supplemental CR 102 materials. So you'll be able to see those in that. And that also includes a table showing that the initial changes that were made in the original CR 102, as well as the changes being adopted or made in the supplemental CR 102, which was filed on January 29th of 2025. So the changes for the supplemental CR 102 include clarifying that sample jars can be displayed by retailers physically near the retail product sold, so it doesn't have to be all kept with the other samples. Increased quarterly limits for retail employees to receive samples. Also increased clarity on in distinguishing trade samples from internal quality control samples, and then further distinguishing the internal quality control samples from samples that are sent to the labs. And so the internal quality control has to do with the producers and processors testing their own products with their staff to make sure that the consistency is present. We're also addressing sample limits based on THC concentration, such as adjusting the limits for concentrates, removing references to per batch and per harvest. And we are shifting that just to per employee per calendar quarter. And then specifying that the old samples will have to be removed from circulation by September 1st of 2025. With the supplemental rule filing, we have not received any public comments in the rules inbox, no written public comments to this point. And so that brings us to the public hearing today. So most of these changes are really a result of the stakeholdering suggestions after the first public hearing. And we also included coordination with enforcement education operations and balancing the public health and safety interests within this particular rule set as well. So once the public hearing begins, I will not be able to answer any questions or respond to any questions that may arise from the testimony provided. And I may be able to respond to any questions either before or after the public hearing starts or after it ends if desired. So if you have any questions before the public hearing, I can certainly answer those now. Once you open the public hearing, I will not be able to answer further questions.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions for Justin?
No questions.
Thank you, Justin. I have no questions. I think you've done a great job of keeping us informed all along, so appreciate it. I have no one signed in for the public hearing regarding cannabis sampling in the room, so I just want to clarify, make sure that no one wants to speak on that particular issue. Anybody online? It sounds like they all signed up for general public comment, Gresham.
Yes, the people that signed up didn't specify between the hearing or general, so they're under general virtually.
Okay. So with that, I will close the public hearing on cannabis sampling and we'll transition into our last agenda item, which is general public comment. Before we do that, let me just go through my notes here. This is a public comment period of the meeting. Everyone will have up to 3 minutes to speak. Please limit your comments to LCB business and refrain from personal attacks or going off topic into things unrelated to what we do here. I will mention it if I think you have wandered off too far. Please be respectful of the speakers and everyone who is present, whether virtually or in the room. Do not disrupt this meeting or other people making public comment. If we have disruptions, I'll pause the public comment until the disruptions stop. Please remember that this is being recorded and will be available later today online. If you're in the room with us today, please be aware that the microphones are sensitive and will pick up on paper rustling and things like that. If you're joining us online, please give us a second to connect you and we will do so. Gretchen will give you an alert when you have 30 seconds left, and I will ask you to conclude your comments once you reach the 3-minute mark. So with that, as we usually do, we'll begin our general public comments for those who've registered virtually. So first up, we have Caitlin Ryan. Caitlin, you should be good to go.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Chair Vollenderhoff and board members Garrett and Holmes. I wanted to comment today on the proposed meeting changes. My understanding is this now is going to begin a discussion about that, and that we can still expect to see public comment for the time being while that discussion is going on. I think I really commend looking at efficiencies and ways to move forward. I am concerned about sort of removing public comment in some of these spaces, and in particular, the space that I'm most concerned about is ensuring that we still have access to the EMT meetings. I do believe that those need to remain public. I think it's really important that stakeholders see that part of the process. And, you know, I look forward to maybe giving some feedback on ways that you might be able to find those efficiencies while still allowing access to those meetings for stakeholders and to the public, as well as, again, just that public comment part. I think, you know, yesterday in the caucus, you had listed sort of those pillars of the things that you're trying to serve, and transparency and community engagement were a part of that. And I'm afraid that the proposal goes a little too far in the direction of maybe limiting some of those particular pillars. But I think there's a way to do this that allows the community to stay engaged while also meeting those efficiency needs and allowing you all to have the substantive conversations that you need to have while still being able to hear from us. In particular, around rulemaking and policymaking, I just want to ensure that whatever version happens, whether it's uncoupled from board meetings or they remain in board meetings, that there is an opportunity for stakeholders to speak to the three of you directly about the rulemaking beyond just written comments. I think that that's a really important part of the process and would like to see that part remain. And then I also would like to make a note, Board Member Garrett, I really appreciated you reminding us of those advisory groups that used to exist prior to, I think it was COVID that sort of was the ultimate reason why those went away. But those I think were also a really valuable way to receive feedback in a meaningful, substantive way that promoted conversation and really, I think, gave a good baseline for to help you all with decision making and strategic planning around policy for the cannabis industry.
Caitlin, you
and
have
it
30
sounds like other parts
seconds.
of industries as well. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Caitlin. All right, next up we have Christopher King. Okay, Christopher, you should be good to go.
Great morning. I'm going to vehemently oppose any efforts to in any way curtail public comment. As you know, the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, as well as the Washington State Article 1, Section 5, provide the public with an opportunity to speak freely about the government and to address government, okay, subject to abuses. I've never abused that. I'm not aware of anybody except perhaps Sammy Saad who has abused that in front of this board, okay? And I've questioned you on that before when you had the rent-a-cop in the room and you had the area partitioned off there and all that stuff. You know, it's an intrusion. It is unwarranted. And furthermore, I find that you're doing that at a time when more and more of the comments are being related to and pertaining to the social equity program, which has disproportionate impact on people who look like me, Black and brown. Okay. And this is particularly disturbing. You know, in 1972, my uncle was an engineer, a flight engineer out here, okay? And I told him I wanted to move to Washington. And he told me Washington is just as racist as anywhere in the country. And you know what? He's right. And I see it here now, because Washington has never cared about Black people ever since the Washington himself owned the slaves, okay? You like Black people to be subservient to you in this state. And that's what you're working on, okay? And Mr. Vollenderhoff, Chair Vollenderhoff, I'm particularly upset with you because you and I had that discussion at the deli or at the bakery over there at one time. And I told you that you were the only board member I could trust. And then you belied that trust when you called to threaten to throw me out and have me escorted out about a month and a half ago or so, when I was doing nothing but going to the bathroom with my gimbal. You made up a false narrative that people were disturbed by my presence. Nobody was disturbed by my presence except you. You made that up in an attempt to try to, shut me down as a journalist, as a citizen. Okay, that's foul. And also, as a gay white male, I'm ashamed of you. I can't believe I felt a brotherhood with you because we're kind of minorities in our own ways. All right. And I don't know I have plenty of gay friends, man. I don't know any of them who support what you're doing with this proposal. I could ask them right now, honey, what do you think?
Not too happy with it.
We've got one right here. All right. So it's vulgar what you're doing. It's oppressive, and it will be challenged. And as a matter of fact, it may be challenged today.
Christopher, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, my attorney is William Sultan. He's the ACLU director of Wisconsin. And I was waiting on him to finish getting his license here in this state and also coordinating with somebody else to join me on the lawsuit. I don't know if I'm waiting for all that right now. I may have to move forward today. What you're doing is absolutely inimical to our freedoms in this state. And I won't stand for it. So I'm going to come at you for what you did to me individually. And I'm going to come at you for what you're doing to our society as a collective. In a Trump era, you have turned into
Christopher,
the
that's your
oppressor.
time.
Thank you, Christopher.
My time to be held
Appreciate it.
later. Goodbye.
Okay, next up we have
Disgusting.
William, and I don't have a last name. So Gretchen, do you have William there?
William registered, but I don't see him online.
Okay, we'll circle back to William toward the end of the meeting. Okay, so let's go to Hollis Thornton.
Hollis registered, but I don't see him online.
Okay, well, that concludes our virtual registrants, so we'll go to in-person. And so first up, we have Michelle Robinson. Michelle,
Yes.
your first up to speak.
Well, I was just trying to figure out. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize.
That's okay.
I was just trying to figure it all out about like the fairness and inclusion of it all. That's my lost point.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, next up, we have Richard Monroe.
Good morning. I'm up here. I just want a fair shot for generational wealth for Black population, minorities, period. I'm just up here, just like the rest of us, just trying to have some equality and make it fair. And I think it's right. I think it's time, and I think it's now, especially the time in life. So that's it. We want generational wealth. We want to have the same advantage as everybody else has. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate your time, Richard. All right, next up, we have Bailey Hirschberg.
Hi, Bailey Hirschberg. I just wanted to say I agree with the notion of limiting the number of meetings that you guys have. That makes sense to me as a way to tighten belts. But I have real concerns about both limiting public comment and making the EMT closed meetings. I understand why those can be efficient, but I also think they come at the expense of accountability, transparency, and empathy from the board. For the EMTs, I see your decision-making as being strongest when all three of you are there to bring your expertise together in concord on a subject. You have expertise in health, in law, in business, and I think it's better to the public to be able to hear from staff directly and to hear your conversations and not to divorce that by having a separate step in which one board member's expertise can be well presented and communicated to the rest, but I'm not certain that they'll do a good job asking all the questions in the EMT that the three of you would together. So I really hope you'll keep that. I also think, I wanted to agree with some of the changes suggested by Gregory Foster. I think he's sent those to you directly, but I do want to go a step further and encourage you guys to keep public comment. like some of you, I appreciate being able to read and take time to consider what things are being heard or what I'm hearing and when you guys are considering ideas and policies. But I've also learned that it's really easy to write people off when you don't actually have to talk to them or hear from them. Once they become emails that you can read at your leisure or documents you can skim, it will be a lot easier for the board to consider the opinion of lobbyists, the opinion of interest groups, the opinion of their fellow government officials, because those are the people they'll be interacting with and not regular citizens. So anyone who has seen the show Parks and Recreation knows that government of, by, and for the people is messy. It is not inherently efficient in a democracy. But I bet if each of you were thinking back on what you value most from your time as public servants, you're thinking about interactions with people. You're not thinking about a really well-written email. So I would, again, just ask that you keep public comment. I know you guys have heard a lot of negativity.
Bailey, you have 30 seconds.
There are opportunities for you to connect with those you serve and for licensees and citizens to see this agency as a place they don't just go with complaints, but a place where they can connect with each other. So please preserve in-person public remarks and please keep the EMTs open. Thank you.
Thank you, Bailey. All right, next up we have Paula Sedaris. Forgiveness.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Chair Valadroff, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Paula Sardina, speaking on behalf of FMS Global Strategies. We represent producers, processors, retailers, and those seeking opportunity in cannabis. I stand in strong support of the rule change. It is about equity and fairness. A monthly meeting will make it far easier for those who are interested in a constructive dialogue to engage. I have people that are suffering from cancer. I have people that have childcare issues that have to care for elderly parents. I have people that don't have gas money to come down here every single week. That's an impediment. Their voices are not being heard. By providing a format for written comments, it means that everybody, regardless of your agency, your station across Washington state, can participate in this process, and that the process is not going to be dominated by those who have the gas or who have the time or who don't have full-time jobs that can come down here and speak every single week. Equity is about giving an opportunity to all of the people, not some of the folks. I'd also like to close my remarks by saying it was an honor to place your name into nomination before Governor Ferguson for chair of this position. The Black and the brown community know that you've got the work of 35 years. You are committed to fairness, you are committed to equity, and you have stood with us when other people have not. As a Black woman who has worked in cannabis since 1996 in 7 states, it was important for me to come here today and to say in front of all Washington state, you have the support of the marginalized communities, of Black and brown communities, to do your work as the board chair. We are honored to have you, Chair Garrett, Member Garrett, Member Holmes serving. This is difficult work. It is emotional work. We want every person who wants to own a store to have a store. It was me who came to the LCB and asked Board Member Garrett to do HB 2870. The board you are the architects of social equity with the leadership of community. By changing this format, you are going to ensure people from Bellingham to Spokane to Vancouver can weigh in and their voices can be heard in an orderly fashion and a fashion that uplifts Black and brown people and gives dignity to their needs. So on behalf of a grateful community, thank you, board.
Thank you, Paula. Appreciate your comments. All right, next up we have Elijah Kane.
Hello, my name is Elijah Kane. Born and raised in Seattle, Washington. First of all, I like to say, I want to I want to say, I want the opportunity for my family and kids and the Black and brown community to be able to have the opportunity to thrive in this community. And I feel like, we was pushed out of it, and we ain't got our fair shot, you know, and then the people that set this program, they let the other people, they let the white people basically come in to our neighborhoods, and this is where we're from. I'm born and raised in these neighborhoods that you're allowing the people to come in and set up shop and do whatever the case is. You know what I'm saying? I'm from that area of Seattle, you know, and you know, I just feel like it's time to let us, you know, expand our wings and be able to thrive, you know. At the end of the day, you know, I like to say it's just like it's kind of frustrating, you know what I'm saying? People say they speak for us and they don't speak for us. You know what I'm saying? Um, Peter Manning, you know, and Mike Assad, you know, they brought me on, and you know, I'm new to this, but at the same time, I've been, you know, I'm really just speaking from myself. I'm not myself, but from within, you know what I mean? And I just want y'all to know that the Mike Assad and Peter Manning is the ones who speak for us, Black excellence, and we in cannabis. But anybody else saying they speak for us in our community, they don't. You know, and they've been fighting for us for years. And so, you know, at the end of the day, like it is what it is. But don't nobody speak for us but them.
Elijah, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Elijah. Appreciate you coming down. All right, next we have Peter Manning.
You know, good afternoon, morning board chair Balendroff and board members Ali Garrett and Pete Holmes. You know, this proposal that you, Balendroff, is pushing forward is an insult to the Black and brown community. I'll tell you why. 10 years I've been coming to the LCB meetings. 10 years I heard white people talk how great this industry is, how much money they made and all that. Black people come in and they actually are this close to receiving licenses to sell cannabis, to process cannabis, to produce cannabis, and now all of a sudden you want to get rid of public comment. And I'll tell you why. When white people have a plan to derail Black people, they cut off communication. It's exactly how they do it. It's by the playbook. To try to silence us by taking our voice away at this board meeting, when you allow white folks to prosper for 10 years and speak their concerns here, and to solidify and build their market off of this public comment, to take that from us at the opportunity right now, we're not going to go for it. And we supported you 100% being board chair. We did. We reached out to every senator. We reached out to the governor's office. We retract all that. This is a double cross. Black people, wherever you're at, listen to me. Your opportunity was stolen by this agency to participate in this cannabis industry, period. White folks did not meet the qualifiers to be in this industry. They are in your neighborhoods now with licenses are fraudulent, and you're giving your money to them. They made over $3 billion. And don't forget, this is the same substance that they put you and your family members in prison for, in jails for, collect calls for. Now they're profiting. They stole your opportunity. You're this close now to getting to this agency having to cough up 170 licenses. They were supposed to cough them up this month, March 1st. They have not made mention of that at all in any board meeting. What gives, Balendroff? Where's the license at for the Black and brown community? Is this why you want to push back on the public comment? Because you guys don't have plans of pushing out those licenses for the Black and brown community?
Peter, you have 30 seconds.
We're not going to tolerate that. This organization has grown. We're more organized. We can reach more people. And we most definitely understand one principle. We understand the principle of gatekeeping. We also understand that people that have our skin are not our kin. The popping up the black face for the white agenda, that shit don't work with us. Thank you.
Peter. All right, next up we have Mike Assad.
Good morning, Chair Ballandroff, Board Member Garrett, and Board Member Pete Holmes, and community members. My name is Mike Asai. As many have heard, I'm the founder of Emerald City Collective. It's the first downtown Seattle dispensary in 2010. Was the second Black-owned in Washington State. Unjustly shut out by City of Seattle and LCB. I'm echoing what Peter said, and others, and even Bailey and others have said. This public comment, Chair Postman, look, it's just like more energy we have to give, but we have to give this energy to tell you and this board that why now? What's the changes for? And this message is to Governor Ferguson, okay, to his transition team, to his cabinet members, and to this board. Why are we changing this now? Black people just have had the opportunity to start speaking here since 2022. But because more Black people are coming, as you see here today, now we want to move the goalposts. There's no update. So we're just completely against these changes of the public comment. If you want to make it down to once a month, okay, we can compromise. But to change it from Black people to have an opportunity to come down here, I've been on EBT for the past 3 years. I was in a car accident, head-on collision, just because I dressed nice doesn't mean I got money. I come down here with no one gives me funding. People can sign up online to speak. So this notion of that people can't come down here because they don't have gas and whatnot, we have online tutorials to do it, okay? There's no updates for 1551. There was amendments made, but there was no updates given yesterday at the board caucus. This program has been delayed, and I don't know why. Our community stands ready for the social equity program for the second round to go live. The delay on this process has gone far too long. Senate Bill 5080 was passed nearly 2 years ago. The rules are final. The third-party vendor has already been selected. So what is the delay? Justin Nordum, Lukella, Ali, Jim, what's the delay?
Mike, you have 30 seconds.
I just want to touch just briefly on what, as I've analyzed social equity for the past several years, or 5 years now, I'm not trying to sell my license. I've said that last time. But, the policy in the bill that you can't sell your license for 5 years, that's racist. That's babysitting. That's gatekeeping the Black and brown community. White people got them licenses in 2013, and they had an opportunity
Mike,
to
that's
sell.
your time.
They got the license in 2015, and they had an opportunity to sell. We're going to change that in that bill. Let Black people have their generational wealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Okay, let's circle back and see if Williams come back on.
I don't see William.
Okay, William, if you happen to be there, just a reminder that you still can submit written comments. So I appreciate your participation. And I do want to thank everybody for your participation today. Community engagement is important, and we will continue to engage.
Why are you trying to cut it out?
So thank you. All right, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Words, don't drop lofty words, man.